what is your understanding of dyslexia? What is dyslexia?
Yeah, so I'm not a dyslexia pro, of course, my understanding is you learn differently and the brain works differently, and it's more challenging on things like memory or recall or reading.
Okay.
But you're also very creative and can think outside the box, and that would be
that's pretty spot on.
Okay.
Yeah, we often describe it on the channel as operating system. It's kind of like the difference between a Mac and a PC. And so it technically is a neurological condition. And so you literally process information differently. You see things differently. And so there's all kinds of different stuff we could say about that. But it's always interesting when I talk to people about dyslexia, because a lot of times it's like, you flip letters around and they think that's like the extent of it. But there's a lot of other aspects to it, and there's great books out there, and we talk about that on a lot of other videos. So either that's one.
I think it's definitely worth talking, and I'm sure you do this, highlighting the strengths of it, because
100%.
I was, when I was younger, I was diagnosed with a sleeping disorder, and I had to go to speech pathology for a long time because I would mumble my words. I didn't have confidence. I never thought I was a great student, but I loved to learn. I just didn't like to learn in the way of school and in that aspect. And so it's taken me a while to identify myself as an academic and someone who enjoys learning and enjoys not necessarily reading all the time about things, but when there's things I'm really interested on, I will go deep and become
I love that, because I hated school because I wasn't good at it, but I consider myself someone who loves to learn. And it's funny, it's like once you get out of the cookie cutter system that they kind of set up for us, is we actually really enjoy learning new things and experimenting and trying new things, but we just don't want to necessarily sit in a desk and do it the way that you think it should be done.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the boy I live with, he struggles with that. We're getting him tested for dyslexia.
Okay.
And so he struggles with reading and comprehension and some of these things, but he's really smart and he's curious and he wants to do those things, but it's, challenging because we want him to feel confident. Yeah. And he's, learns differently than other kids. But in my opinion, I view that as a superpower for him, because he can think outside the box and see all of these things and be super creative. There aren't always opportunities for him to do that in school. And so I want to prioritize giving him those opportunities outside of school. Yeah. And I coach his flag football team, and two of the words that I bring onto the team are the 2 E's, and they're effort and encouragement. Yeah. And I really want to encourage him through his effort. Yes, in football, but also in building things downstairs or art or just creativity. There's no right way to do anything. There's just, you can try it. And if you have the flexibility and you feel like you're allowed to try, then you're going to really learn a lot faster.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I try to talk to my kids about that. So I have an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old. My son, who's 18, he's on the spectrum, high functioning, and a whole nother conversation about what is autism, and again, but it's just a lot about how you process and see the world. Brilliant. And then my daughter, who maybe doesn't love school, and academically maybe a little bit more of a struggle, just because she's more creative, but she's already written her first book, And so recognizing what the strengths are and leaning into those and then using those to learn, I think is so valuable for confidence as well. And again, it goes back to the story I was talking about, earlier. One of the reasons we started the DH was I didn't want my daughter to feel insecure. I didn't want my son, but when I learned that my son wasn't dyslexic, then I was like, oh, okay. But then it turned out my daughter was, and I was just, I didn't want there to be a stigma. I didn't want her to be insecure. And then just all kinds of bad things come out of, when people are insecure and don't trust, and they seek affirmation in ways that aren't healthy, and and things like that. So I love that approach. One of the things, a quote that I love is from Mark Cuban. Sorry, my mind went blank. He talks about college, and one of the quotes that, and I may get this off a little bit, but he's like, the point of college is to learn how to learn. I did not go to college. But I really liked that statement, that quote. And so in your experience with, men, women, just life, working with athletes, what could you say about that statement, just about learning how you learn, learning how your body responds? What have been some important things? Have there been important things about mental and physical, just saying like, oh, my body responds differently when I do that? Or talk to me a little bit about learning.
Yeah. I mean, when you were talking, the word that popped up for me was curiosity.
Yeah.
So you have to allow yourself to be curious, which in order to be curious, you have to feel safe. You have to feel comfortable to be curious. Yeah. And so if you're judging yourself, you're not feeling safe and you're not going to feel like you're allowed to be curious.